Compunche Perú, Gobierno del Perú.
Muy buenos días a todas las personas que se encuentran conectadas. Mi nombre es Diana Senjo, soy parte de la Oficina de Comunicaciones de la Autoridad para la Reconstrucción con Cambios y el día de hoy les damos la bienvenida al Roadshow Infraestructura Natural, en el que presentamos proyectos para el diseño definitivo de los proyectos de infraestructura natural en diferentes cuencas ubicadas en Lima, Ica, Lambayeque y Ancash, como parte de las intervenciones del sector de soluciones integrales a ejecutarse en el marco del Acuerdo de Gobierno a Gobierno entre el Perú y el Reino Unido. En el programa de hoy abriremos el evento con las palabras de bienvenida del señor Rafael Anaya Caldas, director ejecutivo de la Autoridad para la Reconstrucción con Cambios. Posteriormente, la señora Kate Flynn, directora del programa del UKDT, expondrá sobre el impacto.
From the UKDT, we will have the impact of the G2G government, and Mrs. Miluska Audietz will provide a presentation in reference to the contracting processes. After this, we will go ahead and pass on to Emerson Salinas, specialist from the Integrated Solutions, and which will provide details regarding the projects that we're going to be presenting today. We also ask you to present all of your questions and comments for this transmission.
Las estaremos respondiendo.
In the end of the session, we will be answering these with the specialists. Just to remind you that this event is being put on the Facebook and YouTube of the ARCC in Spanish and English. Now we will continue with the welcoming words and the presentation of the ARCC. On behalf of the Executive Director of the ARCC, Mr. Rafael Anaya Caldas. Thank you very much. Good morning with everyone. My name is Rafael Anaya Caldas, Executive Director in charge of the ARCC, entity in which until my recent appointing, I was working as a Director in Articulation of Investments. That is why I'm fully aware of the impact of the roadshows. I am very much aware of the importance of these events to be able to begin the work that our people are waiting for, and also where we have had the concentration of floods and rains. This is roadshow number 17, which is done as the ARCC, and that we transmit on live with you. As a product of the previous presentations, we have signed 38 contracts that belong to 134 interventions that are currently under execution. And in reference to this amount of 158 million soles, this would have a favorable impact in the life of millions of Peruvians, of people from 9 regions. In this roadshow, we will present mega projects of definitive design of natural infrastructure work in the basins located in Lima, Ica, Lambayeque, and Ancash. All of the information will be available in our platforms, in our communication platforms, given that there is a lot of information of interest for the citizenship and for all of the companies that are interested in forming part of these processes. Thank you very much for participating, and I invite you to register your interest. Thank you very much, and good morning. Thank you very much, Director. Now we will pass on to the presentations, where we will have first, in reference to the G2G government agreement between the United Kingdom and Peru. Now, Mrs. Kate Flint will present the impact of the G2G government impact of the United Kingdom. Go ahead.
Thank you for participating in this important event. I have great pleasure to say a few words regarding the support of the United Kingdom to the ARCC. My name is Kate Flint, and I'm the Program Director of the UKDT. My background and experience is delivery of major infrastructure programs. I've worked on high-speed rail projects, nuclear power plants, and the Olympic Games. And then in November 2017, I had the pleasure of coming to Peru to support on the design and construction of the infrastructure for the Lima 2019 Pan American Games. I'm very pleased to be here to build on that legacy and to support the ARCC in the procurement of the best contractors and consultants that will be required to deliver the sustainable protection and defences that will save lives and build on regional economies, all executed in a transparent way. Next slide. The UKDT is pleased to support Peru and the ARCC through the implementation of the most ambitious national construction program ever conducted in Peru. We're here to support Peru's vision to implement sustainable and resilient infrastructure in the regions affected by El Niño in 2017 and beyond. The objective is to improve life opportunities as well as increase capacity for Peru to satisfy its future infrastructure needs and reach the greatest internal potential. To achieve this, great collaboration is required, working with communities, local authorities, consultants, suppliers and contractors. We're helping to develop integrated river basin management plans that include multi-sector and multi-purpose infrastructure, sustainable and resilient solutions, adaptability to climate change and extreme events, and environmental and socio-economic benefits. Next slide. The work is being executed under a government-to-government agreement between Peru and the United Kingdom. The UKDT is providing strategic and technical advice to support the ARCC in the delivery of the works. Next slide. The UK team provides support to the ARCC in different ways, as well as the establishment of the PMO, or Program Management Office, and a procurement process based on international best practice. The UKDT provides support and advice to the ARCC and their contractor partners, supporting effective decision-making and making sure that the processes required by the PMO and the new forms of contract are well understood. The transfer of knowledge is at the core of everything that we do. Our number one objective is to build the capacity of Peru to deliver the important infrastructure that is needed in this country. Next slide. This collaboration is based on an integrated core team in collaboration with strategic partners that bring capability and depth of knowledge to the program. It's focused on delivering measurable, sustainable and resilient outcomes to leave a positive legacy for the communities affected and Peru as a whole. Next slide. The opportunity that we are talking to you about today is much broader than purely design and construction projects. It is significant in terms of its scale, breadth of responsibilities, and the number of people who will benefit from and be impacted by the project. Because of this, it will be essential that high international standards are met in areas such as environmental management, procurement, design management, the management of health and safety, as well as working with local communities. Last slide. What does this mean for you? With the support of the UKDT, the ARCC is achieving transparency, efficiency and consistency, decisions on time and the control of change, improving professional practice and standards with a focus on social results. It is supporting economic reactivation and a shift towards building and growing a legacy together. Thank you for your time. I hope that you enjoy the other presentations. And at the end of the roadshow, I will be available to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, señora Flint. Nuestra siguiente expositora es la señorita Miluska Auris.
Thank you very much. We now have Miluska Auras. I'll make the presentation regarding the contracting processes. Thank you for this. My name is Miluska Auris and I work with the procurement team of the UKDT. I'm going to present some details regarding the process that we are carrying out for this next round of activities in reference to what we will expect from you if you are able to express your interest. For those that have never attended any roadshow previously or that have not participated in any of these activities in procurement, and we understand that these processes are unknown for you, for which we would try to explain each stage in the most detail possible in reference to what we expect from you and how to participate in this. We are going to go in detail in reference to the procurement process that we wish to execute and our strategy that is proposed. This is very important because it's going to have limited time for you to be able to send documents and responses. Therefore, it is important for you to be able to obtain an early comprehension within our requirements. For those of you that have attended to previous roadshows, part of this material can seem familiar. However, it is important to be able to see exactly what we require and how we wish to contract the tender of this, and we also see the procurement process in this roadshow, which establishes what we will need from you and also when we will need it. Next slide, please. First of all, I believe it is very important to be able to establish the main terms that follow the procurement process and how we interact with the market in the supply chain. These principles are transparency, opening, and equity, and this requires that we carry out tender process that allow all of the companies that are wanting to participate to have the same possibilities of success. The objective is to be able to maximize the competence, to be able to see that the final result is able to provide the most advantage and suitable opportunity to be able to carry out the work. It is important to be able to deliver that the offer, economically speaking, is not necessarily the offer with the lowest price. It has to do with commercial, technical, and also not only the money is the best offer in your value. Only those companies that are better able to show the previous experience and the capacity of developing work combined with the commercial presentation will have a good score in this process. It will also be important to mention that talking about transparency, opening, and equity is present in all of our processes. It's the nucleus and the core of what we're trying to achieve. To be able to do this should provide the trust and confidence that everything is going to be done in a fair manner. And if it is shown that it is the most suitable option to be able to carry out the work, then it will be qualified and scored as such. Next slide, please. In reference to our contracting strategy, we do consider different ways of contracts in our position of decision making. And as many of you possibly already know, we decided that the best way of the contract to use would be the new engineering contract, or the NEC. A key aspect of the NEC contract is that it allows flexibility and focus in a collaborative manner. This flexibility in nature in reference to being able to see the presentation in reference to transparency, opening, and capacity to be able to work in a collaborative manner in reference to this. The group of NEC contracts comes with many options that can be used in reference to fixed price and also in reference to reimbursable costs and a range of this. The options of NEC contracts that we are using for these procurements are the ones of a hybrid option C, which is a contract of a target price without loss, and also in reference to a 50% of the employer and 50% of the consultant for design contracts that we are currently acquiring. The contract of option C is essentially a contract of reimbursable costs, in which the consultants are reimbursed the real costs that are incurred when providing services, with the difference that the consultant is incentivized throughout this target price. The target price will be given by the ARCC. We will request that they're able to fix the price, all included, and also a percentage for the fee. I will explain more about this in the following slides. Next slide, please. The technical details and the scope of these packages will be explained in further detail later on. However, it is important that you are able to understand our strategy. Here you're able to see that we are tendering 5 packages in total. Here there were many decisions that had to do with how we package this, including geography, the size of the package, the possibilities, and how they're operational for the market in reference to these different areas. The 5 packages are for natural infrastructure work. The design set until stage 4 of RIBA. As we mentioned in the previous end, these will be sent throughout the contract of professional designs in NEC option C hybrid. We have the intention of issuing a document of mandatory commitment, MOU, and also a pre-qualification document, PQQ, for the 2 packages. However, the same as previously, we will only issue 2 invitations for tendering. The first invitation for tendering, ITT, will be given for the first section, which includes packages 1 and package 2. Package 1 that includes Cañete, Mala, and Mata Gente, and 2, which is Casma, Huarmey, and La Cramarca. Then, 4 weeks after the launching of these packages, we will be able to carry out another ITT for These ones that include packages 3, 4, and 5. Package 3, Olmos, Motupe, and Leche. Package 4, Chancay and Sanya. And package 5, Rimac. And this separation of 4 weeks will be kept throughout the whole process so that we are not trying to code the 5 packages at the same time. All of this would be seen individually. Therefore, we have 5 contracts at the end of the contracting process. It is important that once we are able to fill out the PQQ, you select the packages for which you would like to be included in the ITT stage. We must need to be able to establish that we have this, and you make sure that when you select, your organization has the competencies that are necessary and the billing thresholds that are necessary and required. Next slide, please. This slide only shows visually the times set for these procurements, but it also shows how these are divided into, showing the involved parts in each set and how these would be executed. It also shows how we have the implementation, the separation of these ends in reference to the ITT. Next slide, please. This slide only allows you to have a better comprehension of where the work packages are within the country. As we mentioned, the technical details and the scope details are going to be detailed in another part of this presentation. Next slide, please. The processes of contracting that we believe to execute are going to be held in 3 main stages. The stage of mandatory execution or MOU, MEU, the pre-qualification process or PQQ, and a process of invite to tendering or ITT. I will detail what is required in each one of these stages later on, but this graph shows us how we pass from a list, long list of participants to one that is awarded with the contract. After today's presentation, besides those companies that have already registered with us in previous roadshows, if you wish to be considered for this opportunity, first of all, you need to send your data in the website of the ARCC. And we would also request that you provide certain simple details to be able to confirm that this is done with the capacity of carrying out the work in reference to what is expressing interest. This is in reference to being able to see companies that are not to participate, or the number of companies that can participate isn't limited. After receiving the list of participants, the data will be included in the award portal, and they would receive an invite by email when the MU is ready to be downloaded. This intention is done in order to guarantee that only the companies that receive the PQQ actually have the requirements of invoicing that are necessary and that are able to sign the commitment, the mandatory commitment, among which in reference to pollution, conflicts of interest, and confidentiality. We will then see that everything's suitably set and that all the requirements are met. The number of eligible members that can pass to a PQQ is unlimited, and then we'll present the PQQ to those companies that have passed the MEU stage. PQQ is done to be able to reduce this list in the MEU time to a short list of companies that are going to be invited. After the PQQ and our evaluation, companies will be known if they're going to form part of the short list. The short list is formed by the companies that have the largest scores in the PQQ. For example, if we have the intention of having a short list of 7, then we will invite to participate the 7 tenders with the highest scoring, and these will all receive a score in reference to a short list or not. The third stage is the ITT, invitation to tender. Those companies that were able to pass the pre-selection will be asked to send an offer that will consist of the presentation of certain documentation, a technical answer, and a commercial answer. The contract will be awarded to the bidder in the tender that has a higher score. This process allows us to passing on from a long list eventually to just one winner. Next slide, please. Okay, so going into more detail in each stage, just as we mentioned previously, after showing the interest in the web page, And subject to this, we will enter the data in the portal of the procurement award, and you will receive an email that is sent to the email provided by you to our website. First, we will require that the information is
Una vez registrado y una vez que el
shared, and also to change the password. And once the MU is available, we will be notifying again the email address provided and that the MU is ready for its downloading. If we've already registered, if they've already been registered,
de lo contrario solo recibirá una notificación una vez
if they've already been registered, they've already are able to receive the information. If they're not, they have to wait for the MU to be activated. Now, everything that has to do for these work packages to be able to choose the packages for which they are interested in forming it part of the tender process to confirm that the sale volumes meet the threshold necessary. We don't require any further documentation in this stage. However, we must remember that in the PQQ stage, you will be asked to be able to send financial information just to show that what you declared in the MEU stage is correct. If this information does not support the information that you sent in the MU, this would mean a failure and the PQQ will be disqualified from the process. An important consideration over which we receive many questions is the formation of consortiums and in which stage should we be notified. We don't request that during the presentation of the MU to be able to establish this consortium. This information is necessary in the PQQ stage. The only rule that we provide for this is those companies that sent a answer in MU will be included in the PQQ to be able to form part of the consortium. Therefore, it is vital for all of these companies, if they even have or not the intention of participating in a consortium and they wish to be included in the PQQ stage, they need to present an answer in the MU. But if you decide to send an MU as a consortium, you can also do that, of course. However, previously, if we received an answer from MU on behalf of the whole consortium signed by all of the members that would have to be set, then that consortium will not be changed when the documentation is sent for the stage of PQQ. We've definitely altered that information in reference to changes in allowing these members to be removed, and when one of the consortium has already gotten the MU and the previous requirements. We continue seeing the compliance of specific ends, and therefore, if you are not sure of what companies will be integrating your consortium in the MU stage, it is better to send answers of MU in an individual manner to then conserve your options of how to form part of this consortium. Next stage, please. Okay, starting in reference to the scenario of PQQ, all of this information in reference to the MU will receive a PQQ. The information of PQQ in reference to being able to bring the viability in order to be able to understand this work for which is wanting to be done. And therefore, we need to look backwards, which means that we are able to see this in reference to being able to set how this has been additional work and the procedures. And as we mentioned previously, the times as well, in reference to the invoicing. This information is that these companies of a time and sufficient capacity are actually allowed onto the following stage. However, if you are a smaller company that does not meet this minimum requirements, you are not necessarily included in reference to being able to set this. To be able to set this in reference to the companies in the consortium. I would like to mention some documents that are able to be seen here in the PQQ. Considering the times that we have set, it is possible that we would like to start thinking about compiling this information in reference to being able to see this interest. Considering the information of the last 3 years, 2018, 2019, 2020, and in reference to these times, it's not necessary to be able to state this information in the invoice and level of the platform in reference to these exercises, in reference to these procedures and this end, and in reference to these quality and or the policy of health and safety. We can see these packages in reference to being able to set in reference to requirements of this end. These will be established in the documentation of the MU when this is a part.
Esta diapositiva explica la etapa de invitación a licitar.
Here, this is the stage that invites to tender the ITT. If you are part of the shortlist of PQQ, you'll be notified through award, and then you'll be sending in reference, you'll be receiving an invite to tendering. And in the PQQ, the questions were going backwards. The ITT is looking forward. Here, we are designing to be able to see how this project will be seen. The other main difference between the questions of the PQQ and ITT and the stage ITT also has a commercial presentation, which represents enough commercial offer for us. Under the hybrid option C of the net contract, the price of the tariffs of resources, so the fees of resources will be asked to be included, and also a percentage of the fees as part of the offer. Key questions would go according in reference to proposed work, the execution plans of the project, and also how are we able to manage the project. And therefore, and according to the requirements of awarding the process that has been presented in the better position, better proposal, this would be set in reference to a technical end of 70-30. Next slide, please. Next slide is able to explain the invite to tendering. If you are chosen and you form part of the shortlist in the PQQ, you'll be notified through award, and then you will send the invite to tender also through award. While in the PQQ, the questions would be seen backwardly. In the ITT, the questions are looked forward, and also they are approached in reference to being able to see this. Another difference in reference to the questions of the PQQ and the ITT stages are here in reference to being able to see a commercial end that represents this. On the hybrid option C, this will require to fix the price of the fees of resources, including this, and also a percentage of fees as part of the presentation of offers. The key questions will go according to the program of proposed work, their plans of execution, and how this process will be set. According to the requirements of the scene, what has been offered in the most advantage offer, the scoring will be set in favor of the technical section. Normally a technical division of 70-30, technical and commercial division. This ensures that the price is not able to see here, but the contract is being able to set the one that generates the best value. This part is seen after the technical end to be able to get a 100% level. The tender with the highest score is eligible for being awarded to the contract here in reference to what was executed previously. Next slide, please. Therefore, how do we see all of this in terms of the procurement stage that we are working in? Well, the register is already open, so if you have not yet registered, I will ask you to please do this after this roadshow. However, if you have already registered before, we see that you don't need to do this again because we already have the data. We're thinking about launching an MU Monday of next week for the 5 work packages. The register is closed before the limit date for the presentation of the mandatory commitment. And to this, we will also have the launching of a PQQ and then the 2 ITTs. There are 2 weeks to be able to fill out and send back the MU, 4 weeks to complete and send back the PQQ, and 6 weeks to be able to send the ITT. And we are presenting information today in reference to this process. As we said at the beginning, we are operating in an open and collaborative process. Once the MU is issued, we will carry out some informative sessions for those that require this, in which we will be able to establish the requirements of the sending of MU, PQQ, and ITT, and also some specific clear ideas for these processes. We will always carry out sessions in reference to the PQQ and ITT if they pass on to the stage. We also have a message system through our award system, award portal, that allows you to be involved in all the stages, to be able to have questions made in reference to any project that we are executing or in reference to the content of any part of the documentation. In reference to this, in the stages, we will also have interactive sections that are confidential with each one of the pre-selection tenders. If you are pre-selected for this end, You can, of course, speak to us on a one-on-one basis in any of the aspects of the processes that we are executing. We'll also be able to set questions of scope and contractual ends if you have them. Finally, regarding this end, it is important. If you have success in the process, you will have 2 weeks as of when you were first starting to see the day of the execution of the project. And therefore, we should make sure that all of the paperwork and everyone is aligned to be able to meet this time. Next slide, please. Finally, and thank you very much for your patience. I hope the message has been clear enough so that in each stage we have the intention of carrying out a transparent and open process. We need to collaborate with you so that we're able to guarantee that everything is done correctly. This is done throughout the function of messaging in reference to the portal or informative sessions for the request and for the bidder when possible. We also open up the possibility of being able to receive comments. If they are not successful, this brings them valuable information regarding where they can improve so they can increase their possibilities of success in this and future tender processes. If you're interested in these opportunities, like I mentioned, please register your interest at first in the website of the ARCC, and then you will receive the documentation for MU, a moment in which you're able to set any question that you may have through the portal award. And then we will be able to carry out all of the questions in reference to being able to answer them as soon as possible. We also want to ask companies if they think they don't have enough experience. We want to ask them to form consortiums with other companies to be able to deliver these projects. One, we have the MUs will open a portal in the website of the ARCC to be able to ask the companies to get together where they're able to complement their activities with others in order to be able to join forces and form a consortium. That detail is included in the documentation. If there is any issue with the award, then in reference to this matters. And please, at first, let us know in reference to this clarification through our work. There issues for you to be able to open session or communicate throughout this session. I hope this was useful and this helps you to be able to carry out these processes. Thank you very much, and we are here to help you in each stage of the process. Good luck with all your submissions. Thank you very much, Ms. Auris. Now we have Engineer Emerson Salinas, Specialist of the IS section, that will present the projects to be tendered. Good morning. Thank you. As responsible of natural infrastructure projects, I am now wanting to present the packages that form part of this process in reference to the procurement for the preparation of the definitive studies of the projects that I am going to proceed to mention. The projects are for natural infrastructure. There are 5 packages. I will detail them now. Next one, please. In the content is going to have 5 points. And the rest of the items are going to now make reference to the specific packages. The first point in reference to components in the integrated reconstruction plan, the second one in reference to the intervention lines, the objectives of this procurement stage, the general considerations that meet all of the projects and the times for services. And the following items, like I mentioned, are making reference to specific ends. Next one. The projects of natural infrastructure form part of a strategy, an integrated strategy that is coordinated of interventions in the basins. These plans of intervention, these integrated reconstruction plans have 3 components. 2 of these components are making reference to gray infrastructure focused on river defenses and in a storage, and also component C, which is the component in which you're able to find the projects of natural infrastructure. It also includes the projects of the early warning system. Next one, please. The projects of these have 3 intervention lines. The first one, reference to green infrastructure, it's all of the they only are looking for the recovery of the vegetable coverage. It could be different species or even a combination of this. The second line is called brown infrastructure, and this line is making reference to stabilizing soils, protecting soils, and also stabilizing slopes or geoforms. And the third line is in reference to governance and knowledge management, which includes all of the actions made in reference to creating awareness, training, organizing, making a follow-up, and technical assistance. Okay, go ahead, next one. The objective of the procurement is related to having selection of a company or a group of companies that bring consultancy to be able to prepare this for each one of the projects of natural infrastructure. They're currently grouped in 5, and these projects are seen in 12 basins. Here we can see that how this is being distributed in reference to these projects in the 5 packages, where we can also see the amounts in reference to investment to each one of the projects. These amounts have to be seen in reference to around 30 million to almost 150 million. Next one, please. These projects, all the projects are going to have general considerations besides the particularities that each one of these projects is able to present. The profiles, the viable profiles of these projects should be considered as a preliminary study and referential study. The consultants or the designs have the responsibility of identifying or developing a design that is able to meet the general objective of the recovery of the ecosystemic service of regulation of natural resources in ecosystems that are susceptible to hazards and mass movement in this hydrographic basin. The following point is making reference to the fact that the interventions should be able to be set in the areas where it's going to be less to the precipitation, more than a 0, and also in these stages where the level of degradation is correct, that it is able to see this coverage together with what is established in the categories of zoning, forest zoning. The times, the elaboration of these definite studies has a time of 3 months, and this is done in reference to 3 phases. These 3 phases in reference to conceptual design, which lasts 3 months. The other one is in reference to a second phase in reference to spatial design, which lasts 6 months. And finally, in reference to detailed and what is set in reference to this parts for the preparation of these definitive studies. Next one, please. Having presented this end in reference to these frame parts, in reference to these packages, in reference to these package 1 has to do with Cañete, Mala, and Matagente. Next one, please. Cañete, as you can see here, we are going to specify certain ends in reference to these projects, in reference to this recovery, in reference to this end, in reference to these parts. This is in reference to being able to set here to Huancaya, Laraos, and Yoyos, in reference to being able to set this. Here, the location, as you can see here, is in the province of Yauyos, in 6 districts of this. Here we can see here on the right the limiting of this end, and this is a focus on the high part of the basin. Days of these projects are set in reference to these ends, and in green, in reforestation, in reference to these hectares and revegetation, it's always more than 300 hectares, and in reference to a variety, in reference to this parts, in reference to being able to see the specific routes. In the case of Mala, the same way, in the objective of the recovery of this end. Next one. The location in 2 provinces with the districts that you're able to visualize in the chart. In reference to the upper end and on the right, you can see the map of the interventions in reference to where it is also evident that the interventions are located in the high part of the basin. Here, the stage of this project is set on green infrastructure in reference to an extension of over 4,000 hectares of reforestation. In reference to this objective, the location are 2 provinces, Chincha and Castro Virreyna, with the districts that you're able to visualize here in this table. And to the right, we can also see here the locations of the interventions of what we have here in the low and high part of the basin. These parts are seen in 3 types for green infrastructure in reference to reforestation, and these ends, and also in reference to these areas. In the case of complementary infrastructure, this is seen in reference to the reservoirs. Next one. Here we see package 2. Here we have 3 projects in reference to Casma, Guarmey, and La Camarca. The similar objectives for the rest of the projects. The location in 3 provinces in reference to the Department of Ancash, Casma, and Huaraz. We're able to see here the location and the interventions here in previous cases in reference to the high part and the low part of the basin. In reference to an extension of 3,898 hectares. Next one, please. Here with very similar parts. Next one, please. In reference to the location, here also in the Department of Ancash with 3 provinces, Paija, Recuay, and Guarmey, with the districts that you're able to visualize. In reference to the interventions, again seen on the high parts of the basin. In the goals of the project in green infrastructure, we have over 1,300 hectares in reforestation and over 1,200 in revegetation. In reference to infrastructure, we have 3 types: ditches, terraces, and dikes, with the detail in reference to what you're able to visualize in the lower left end. Next one. For the case of the La Camarca project as well, an objective that is focused on the recovery of ecosystemic services. Next one, the location in the department of Ancash in a province of Santa, the location of interventions with much more evidence that are set on the high part of the basin and also with a goal of reforestation of 3,259 hectares and reference to being able to set this with 631 hectares. Next one, package 3 has 3 projects, almost Motupe and La Leche, this in the northern part of Peru. Next one, and almost the same objective in reference to similar to the previous ones. The location located in 2 departments, in the department of Lambayeque and Piura, in Lambayeque in 2 provinces, Lambayeque and Ferreñafe, in the case of also Huancabamba. In reference to features of intervention, in reference to the interventions that are here, in reference to this divorce of waters, in reference to the goals in green infrastructure, we have a goal that is noticeable of 8,345 hectares in reforestation. And in brown infrastructure, we have terraces and or control of this. The project of Motupe, also with a very similar objective than the previous ones. Next one, the location in the department of Lambayeque in 2 provinces, Lambayeque and Ferreñafe, in 4 districts that can be visualized in the upper left corner. The interventions in the same way focused on the high part of the basin. 2 types of goals in green infrastructures, 4,000 hectares of reforestation and 2,000 hectares of pastures. And in brown, we have a goal of 300 hectares. Next one. For the case of the La Leche project, also a very similar objective than what we had before. Next one, the location in the department of Lambayeque, province of Ferreñafe, in the districts of this province, with the interventions focused on the high part of the basin. Goals, 2 kind of goals in green infrastructure, 1,400 hectares of reforestation and 600 hectares in pastures, with 100 hectares in infiltration areas. Next one. For the case of package 4, we have 2 projects, Sanya and Chancay. The project of Sanya, an objective that is similar to the previous ones. Next one. The location here in this project is located in 2 provinces of the departments of Cajamarca and Lambayeque, the provinces of San Miguel and Chiclayo, with 6 districts. The interventions, the same as the other ones, in the medium and high part of the basin. 2 types of goals in green infrastructure, over 3,000 hectares in reforestation, and 10,000 parts in formation of terraces. In the case of brown infrastructure, there is a goal of 2,000 meters in the control. Here is this project, something very similar to the rest of projects. Next one. In the location, this project includes the departments of Cajamarca, Lambayeque, in the provinces of Chota, Huargayoc, San Miguel, Santa Cruz, and Chiclayo. Interventions as well focus, such as in the rest of the projects, in the medium and high parts of the basin. The goals are focused in green infrastructure in reference to having over 5,400 80 in reforestation, over 11,400 hectares in revegetation, and over 3,100 hectares in agroforest systems. Last package, package 5, just one package here in a reference.
Igual su objetivo muy similar a los anteriores. Siguiente.
Here in reference to having this very similar end, and in the province of Huarochirí, in reference to this, in reference to the goals of infrastructure, green infrastructure are for three types: reforestation over 9,000 hectares, revegetation over 1,500, and agroforest systems over 1,500. In the case of brown infrastructure, 3 types: ditches, terraces. Next one. Thank you very much, and we hope to have been clear and specific in this presentation. We will now, of course, be waiting for any kind of question for us. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Salinas. As we mentioned throughout this event, the team for the ARCC has seen all of the questions that the audience has been able to set throughout these channels. Questions in reference to the contracting process for Mr. Nick Barrett from the UKDT. If a company participates in the design stage, could they later participate in the procurement process for the construction of the project?
Okay, first of all, thank you for your question. Well, these packages are for design only. So initially, they'll just be for design only. It's a good question, and it's probably a question worth asking further down the line if you get through to the ITT stage. So that's the answer.
Preguntas sobre los proyectos.
Very good. Questions in reference to the projects to be tendered for Emerson Salinas. What is established in the investment projects are can they be changed within design, or are they not movable? Okay, in reference to the goals indicated in the profiles are referential goals, of course, and they can be modified in the design process as long as they are able to meet the standard of the Invierte PE and they have all of the technical information. Thank you very much. Next question regarding the procurement process for Mr. Nick Barrett. How much time do we have to be able to execute the contract after it is awarded?
So after it is awarded, the notification letters will be issued, and then the consultant will have 2 weeks which to execute the contract.
Muchas gracias, señor Nick Barrett.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nick Barrett. Next question regarding the project to be tendered for Mr. Emerson Salinas. The time set for each stage RIVA can vary within the general times of 10 months. The times indicated for each RIVA are not movable. In other words, what has been stated here in the presentation, and the general time is for 10 months. For each consortium or company to optimize the time and the resources to be able to meet the times that are stated. Thank you very much, Mr. Salinas. Next question for Mr. Nick Barrett. In the PQQ stage, would you be able to send us the list of companies that presented the MU to form consortiums?
Yes, we will be able to send this at PQQ stage. This is dependent on if you pass the MU stage. So obviously you need to pass the MU stage before you get to the PQQ stage. And the answer is yes, we will send you the list of companies.
Gracias, señor Barrett.
Thank you very much, Mr. Barrett. Next question for Mr. Emerson Salinas. Can other goals be added, those that are not included in the investment profile? Well, the goals as components cannot be added, no, The goals as actions, yes, can be added as long as they are meeting with the technical setting of the project. They're able to meet the parts of Invierte PE and they have everything fundamented for technical and economic for this end. Thank you, Mr. Salinas. Next question for Mr. Nick Barrett again. May I participate if we are a consultant company and not a constructing company? If this were the case, what is the procedure to follow?
Yes, so the opportunity is open. It's an open process, so anyone can participate. However, as previously mentioned, the focus of the procurement is for design only. Therefore, a company like a consultant would be welcome to join the process. The second part of the question is, how do I join the process? Well, initially, you need to register your interest. So take a look at the ARCC website, register your interest on the link, and then you'll need to participate by completing the MU process. And if you pass the MU process, you will go on to the PQQ process. And if you're successful in that, then you'll go on to the ITT process.
Gracias, señor Barrett. Nuevamente, pregunta para el señor Emerson Salinas.
Thank you very much. Again, question for Emerson Salinas. What is the relation in reference to these projects of green infrastructure with the projects of river defenses that are currently being developed? In Casma, Guarmey, Chimbote, and Huaura, that already have this landscaping component. The natural infrastructure projects are complementary to river defense projects. And the part in reference to being able to see this, these are in the scale of the objective. The projects of natural infrastructure are focused in preventing and reducing the hazards of this mass movement, and also in reference to landscaping, we see that it is only an action that complements certain environmental aspects of the river defense interference. Thank you very much, Mr. Emerson Salinas. Last question in reference to the procurement process for Mr. Nick Barrett. How are we able to confirm if we have been registered as a company in the Register of Interests?
Okay, if you send us a query through the registration portal, if you're not sure if you're registered or not, we can answer that accordingly.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nick Barrett. Next question for Mr. Emerson Salinas. Is there any limit, weather limit, climate limit for the infrastructure, for a green infrastructure? Yes, of course, there is a limit. The limit is determined in reference to these areas where the runoff is lower than the precipitation. These areas in which the evaporation is high and it's not covered by the precipitation, then it is not suitable to put any green infrastructure. We need to have the security that the installations, forest installations, and or vegetational ones are susceptible throughout time, and therefore these are going to be located over this line mentioned. Very good. Last question for Mr. Emerson Salinas in reference to the project to tender. Can there be areas installed only for brown infrastructure? No. No, there cannot be areas installed only with brown infrastructure. Brown infrastructure is complementary to the green infrastructure. These projects are mainly interventions of natural green infrastructure with a complement of the brown infrastructure. Very good. Well, thank you very much, both for Mr. Nick Barrett and Mr. Emerson Salinas, for your participation in this Q&A round. Very good.
Les recordamos que ya se
We would
encuentran.
now like to remind you that we have the website habilitated for these processes. You are able to see on your screen and also the comments of this transmission. In this website, you're going to be able to include downloadable information presented in this roadshow, as well as the access to the formats of register of interests, and also for the contracting companies that are interested. And in a complimentary manner, throughout the day, we'll be uploading the videos of the presentations held today, in case you would like to have any kind of repetition. We're also announcing that the following Thursday, 19th of May, we will be providing a Q&A session for all of those companies that have more doubts regarding these contracting processes. Procurement process, this will be available previous registry that you will find in the website. Once again, thank you very much to all the people that connected to the transmission, to everyone that participated, and to the organizations that provide their support in the diffusion of this event. We remind you that you can always follow us in the social networks of the ARCC in Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Through these platforms, it is which you're able to share the progress of the line directions, as well as all of the invites in reference to processes in reference to this event. In reference to, thank you very much for being here with us, and see you next time.
Compunche Perú, Gobierno del Perú.